Hi, Golden Community, and welcome to another episode of the Mastering Manifestation Together podcast, audio/video. If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome. Please make sure you subscribe if you're all into all the things manifestation and mastering manifestation according to you, to your body, mind, soul, not all these blah, blah, blah formulas that we find online, which are like cookie cutter. And we don't do cookie cutter here, right? And if you're listening this in an audio format, in the podcast format, please make sure that you subscribe, you follow the specific podcast. If you like what I'm talking about, then go ahead and rate it. Every single thing that you do on any of these platforms helps this information, this energy that I'm pouring into these recordings to reach more people like ourselves, people that want to create their dream lives, and that's it, right? And they want to live in full peace, full alignment, full fulfillment. Okay, this is episode 2 of the Unfiltered series, so welcome. In the previous episode, I talked about what happened when I didn't follow my soul purpose, and I kind of explained to you how my life kind of just crumbled, internally especially, and a bit externally as well in the last few months, especially the last few weeks, as I was being too stubborn and I wasn't following my soul purpose. And in this video, I want to talk to you about how did my soul purpose look like, and how did I know it was my soul purpose all along, even though I was stubborn and I was not fully listening to it. Okay, so we're gonna dive into it. And just FYI, there's many more episodes coming up. This basically this big story, I decided to break it into many episodes. Some of them will be longer, some of them will be shorter. Today, when I'm recording this, I feel in the mood of giving you short episodes and to the point. So I'll do that. So expect much more juicy information coming next around what was the biggest fear that did not allow me to follow my soul's purpose. I'll do that in episode 3. Hint has everything to do with past lives and which ones. Very fun. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. So how did I know that that was my soul purpose? And I hope this inspires you to see if you already have the same similarities, because from my experience, I have been working with over 300 clients by now. The soul speaks to you in very similar ways to all of us. So if at any moment you resonate, I trust that you're going to receive exactly what you have to receive from this video. I'm always setting the intention, and that you're going to have an aha moment, or you're going to feel like initiated, or you're just going to know what to do next. And hopefully you're not going to repeat my mistakes or do the same mistakes as I did, basically. Okay. So how did I know it was my soul purpose? Well, it was this big calling. So I have always had this big calling. And if now looking back, I can see the common thread. And basically, when I say big calling, I'm talking about those moments when I was in pure ecstasy, in a dreamland, because either I was listening to music and I would daydream on my walk, or I would listen to music as a teenager and I would daydream before falling asleep, or I would just allow myself to feel really good because of anything that I've experienced in my life. Maybe I've read a good thing, maybe I've just watched a really good movie, maybe I just saw something on social media that really ignited that in my soul, and I could feel what I really wanted, or I was in a really good conversation, I was carried away, and I caught myself saying the words. And if I look back, I'm realizing that I've done this many times throughout my lifetime. There were many times where I knew what I wanted to do all along, but it felt crazy, because of my subconscious beliefs, which were basically enrooted and ingrained in my brain since I was very little, like all of us. And everything has to do with societal conditioning, and how basically what this desire and this like passion and this like, oh, what a nice thing it would be if ... Okay, insert here basically your passion, your soul purpose. it felt absolutely impossible. It felt anything but just a nice dream. So for me, it was all along to be creative and to share my stories, my vulnerabilities, my knowledge to the world fully openly. If you don't know the story, fun fact, I actually started my business officially in 2019, and I started 2019, yes. And I started my social media account, my Instagram social media account on I think it was 18 or 19 of August 2019. It was after a couple of hours where I was dancing bachata in my room. I would always do this thing where I would like to uh, either work out, either just like really get in a good energy. I would feel called to move my body, and bachata dancing was always one of the things I absolutely love doing. And I allowed myself to just go with the music and go with the flow. Usually I would start daydreaming, and basically as I would dance, I would just imagine living my best life. And sometimes there were all these images coming through that I didn't even know how could I translate them into real life. And one of them was actually sharing. So if you haven't caught it in the previous video, for whatever reason, my sole purpose has always been to just share authentically my stories, my lessons, my advice, my knowledge of the world. And even nowadays, even right now in this moment, as I'm recording this for you, please know that there's a part of me that cringes at hearing those words. There is a part of me that doubts 100%. Who the fuck cares, Raluca? Who the fuck cares what do you have to say? It's all about like, why do I have to speak about it? So because of this is obviously, as you can see, how would you call it? A trace, I would call it a trace of my former really big core wound, okay? If you want to hear more about core wounds and all of that, I'll make other videos and other episodes about it, I promise, okay? But the point is that I've always knew this. I've always knew I just wanted to share. And it was with time that there were so many signs, right? So my soul knew the idea of doing it felt so good if I would allow myself to be in a full blissful moment where I was just enjoying life with all my senses, because maybe I was at the beach, or maybe I was doing any of the activities I mentioned already. Or, you know, maybe after I just had sex and I just had an orgasm and I was in full bliss moment, I would definitely go towards this, where I just share with the world, I have a community and I talk and I use my voice to help others, to ignite the fire in others. And that felt extremely difficult for me to accept, because it didn't make sense logically. How would that be possible? What do I have to offer? Who am I to speak about this shit? Who is going to listen? I was afraid that my voice doesn't sound good enough, that I speak too fast, that I do not pronounce the letter R correctly, because if you pay attention, I don't. That I don't have a perfect English accent. Obviously, I'm not an English native speaker. And all this, like, you know, bullshit stories in my head. Like, it was the shitty committee in my head was on party mode, telling me all the things. But I knew that in my soul. So I want you to know that if at any moment you know what you want to do, and if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, I'm pretty fucking sure my intuition is telling me that there's at least several people right now watching this that are getting it. You know it, you know you have it, and maybe it's very similar to mine, because actually in my industry and in my coaching, I do attract a lot of people on the same path as me who want to share their stories to the world. So amazing. It might be very, very similar to what I'm talking about. It might be a bit different. It might be very different. Either way, you know. So whenever somebody tells me, I don't know what my soul purpose is, I'm like, bullshit. I call BS. You know deep down what it is. You just have to go in there and actually give yourself permission to say it, at least to yourself in your brain. So yeah, and after that, what happened, if I look back, and I'm giving you some tips and tricks here for you to look out in your life, for you to analyze within your own life, and maybe looking back in the last few months, the last few years, you might see some synchronicities there. And I just want to give you like ding, 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 ding. Please go ahead and follow it, because if not, you're just going to basically torture yourself, and I don't want you to do that, okay? I do know some of the challenges that you have to go through. They are soul contracted and you're not going to be able to get out of them. But if you can avoid some of the mistakes I've done, I would love to help you with that. All right. So I started my Instagram account, as I told you, like in a moment of pure bliss. And I remember perfectly that was a moment where I just accepted, I just want to share. I just want to share with the world all the things I've learned, and I just want to be creative in that way. Even though I was not using the word creative, to be very honest with you, but I just knew I wanted to share. And then after that, it was just with every single day, every single week, every single month passing, there has been a big journey since then, right? I started my business, I grew my business to all these fancy numbers. I moved countries, my relationship evolved. I manifested my dream life in different ways. I manifested my dream dog. I healed a lot of things. A lot of things have happened, right? I'm not here to tell you that story. This is not the purpose of this video. But if I look back now, over the last few years, there have been so many moments in so many ways where my soul was basically telling me, do more of these, right? So I did start sharing, and I did start sharing my soul online. Don't get me wrong. If you follow me on social media, you know this. And if you, excuse me, if you watch or listen to the previous episode, you might have already caught up on the fact that I've already been sharing 80% vulnerable online. But there was this, in the past 6 months, there was this calling in my soul of like, go all in, be vulnerable in real time. Instead of sharing from your scars, Raluca, like in a few weeks when things are going to close up and you're going to have the lesson integrated, share it in real time. Share the fucking wound. Share in the moment when you're bleeding and crying versus waiting until you're much better and then you share. And I'm not saying this advice. I'm not giving you this advice. I'm just saying what has been true for me the last few weeks, last few months. So a few ways that my soul has spoken to me, there were synchronicities in all the ways. Like there was so many people in my life, in so many areas of my life, right? So I'm talking obviously mentors, but also people that have not met me before, that I had maybe just one session with, like psychic readers and different type of energy healers, mentors I just hired out of nowhere, and nobody knew my story, including friends, including my own partner. And my partner is a very logical, grounded human being when it comes to the spiritual side and to these deeper things. It's not his jam, okay? But there were so many ways that the universe was basically trying to tell me, like, hey, can you please start sharing? Like, can you please start sharing your stories? From a bit more subtle ways where I would read something online and my soul, my body would almost like have this blissful fiery explosion in my heart area, and I'll be like, oh my God, yes. I would get chills. Maybe I would see somebody else doing it and I would have the same reaction, like, yes, I want that. Or I will be told. Like I had a psychic reading in February or January, and the specific person, like, she just told me to my face. She was like, okay, you're not sharing enough. You're not sharing your story. You don't share your stories enough. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Okay. And then excuse me, for me, another sign was my human design. So in my human design, it was so clear, like it was so obvious. My life purpose was so obvious, like, oh, you just have to be creative, just share. I had, different mentors telling me my interpretation of my own chart. Myself, I'm a human design reader, and the more I would go through the experiment of living in my human design, I would be called like, oh, you're supposed to go for your stuff and share, go for your stuff and share, go for your stuff and share. Like, go do your things, get your hands in the mud, and then go talk about it to people. And that's what's going to get you everything you want, right? So I am also obviously a business owner. I obviously have a social media presence and an online presence. And that's why I was getting really fucked in my brain with. Because my brain was like, how am I going to go and share my stories and talk about me? And how are people going to want to hire me for that? Like, to me, it felt so hard. It's and a part of me still has trouble with that. I'm not going to lie. And I think a part of me will always have a trouble with that. regardless if I allow that part of me to drive the bus or not. Oh my God, it's hard, huh? Those shadows, it's hard. So I got so many ways, right? I did the other personality tests, or I had an astrology reading last year. I had different things, horoscopes. They would just tell me, or I would have a conversation with my higher self. I would meditate. I would get a clear channeling that I'm supposed to like share more, such as I've had this desire and this channel of creating a podcast, this both audio based and video / YouTube channel based for months. I would say probably for years, if I really am honest with myself, since I got the nudge. And sometimes, to go back to my example, I would have a conversation with my higher self and something would come forward and I would feel like, oh yes, I want to speak about this. And I would record, actually I would record videos that later on would become a podcast that I will promise I will upload them here. I have them all in my archives. And I would have like synchronicity, like walking and then bumping into saying stuff like, God, give me a sign if this is the right thing. I would love to see a butterfly on a rainy day, and I turn around and there's a butterfly around me. That has happened. Or like even just a few days ago, I was walking and I found an eagle feather in the area where I live. It's quite uncommon because I don't live next to the mountains or anything like that. Or I pick up the eagle feather to look at it, and then I look up and I see a rainbow, but there was no rain that day. I mean, I cannot make this shit up. This is crazy. This is just pure universe talking to you or having dreams, all of that. So that's how you know if it's your soul purpose. You know it. And when you talk about it, you have a body sensation. And I want you to understand before I wrap up this video that the body sensation might depend and might differ from each one of you. The intuition is residing in different parts of our bodies from human to human, right? So what you want to do here is to get really honest with yourself and ask yourself, if I could do everything in this world, if I could be everything in this world, if I could be anything in this world, what would I be? Who would I be? What would I do? And let yourself dream and come forward. And I trust that for most of you, it's going to be easy. My intuition is telling me so, because you're probably here because you're already ahead on your path of self-awareness. If you are right now in a path where you're not very self-aware, it might take you a bit of practice, because it might take you some time for your body to allow those big feelings to come forward. Either way, it's going to appear, and I'm just going to give you some examples. Usually it's going to appear in the form of excitement, in the form of turn on, in the form of electricity or chills in your body, butterflies. It might be peace, it might be stillness, it might be the quietude and the serenity of a still ocean. It might be almost like a wind sensation. You might have different parts of your body light up. You might have different contractions in part of your body. You might find yourself smiling or tearing up or getting emotional, So any strong contraction or expansion of any part of your body, any emotion that is going to make you move in a certain ways, that's it. That's how you know it's your soul purpose, okay? So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm going to go and record episode 3 of the Unfiltered series, where I'm going to talk about what was my biggest fear, and probably it will always be my biggest fear in actually following my soul purpose, and what has been keeping me all these months from going 100% in, and what has been keeping me for many years to actually explore it, even before I started. Okay, so please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share this video with somebody that you like. If you have any takeaways or questions, please drop them below in the comments. If you're reading this, you're not reading. If you're listening to this on a podcast, the same thing, please share it with a friend that might need it. Please save it as a favorite. Please follow the podcast, and please comment or rate the podcast, because that helps us as a community to grow. It helps us to become more and more connected with fellow-minded people. So I'll see you in the next video. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.